what would you recommend to someone who's kind of just thinking about getting into e-commerce?
I mean, be different is the only advice I can come up with. I mean, you've got to find what challenges the customers are facing. What are they not able to get?
Welcome to Spokes and Strategy, Marketing the Bicycle with Brandon Morphew and Chris Mailman of Miso Partners. Hello, and welcome to Spokes and Strategy. Today's guest is Forrest Carver, co-owner and manager of Bath Cycle and Ski, Bikeman.com, and Carver Bikes up in coastal Maine. And I've had the good fortune of visiting Forrest at the shop more than a couple times. It's a wonderful place if you ever get a chance. We've crossed paths over the years. I remember, I think, being in the snow somewhere, riding fat bikes with you back when I was a sales rep. And I've had the good fortune of getting a chance to know you a little bit over the years. So thank you very much for being here. Your shop is it's quite a place. It really is, and I highly recommend if anyone's in the area to stop by. The other thing that I'm loving right now is if people haven't already, they really should give a follow on Facebook, because you've been doing this Tuesday series with old products that is hilarious. Like I'm half wanting to open up my wallet and make a purchase, half buckled over laughing at the both the inventory that you guys have and the products. They're just fantastic, brand new stuff that's gorgeous, and sort of played a role in cycling lore and a testament to the inventory that you guys have had over the years. I think if there's something you need, Bikeman probably has it.
For better or worse.
Yeah, and so without further ado, welcome, Forrest. It's great to have you. I'm very grateful for you, taking the time out and being on Spokes and Strategy. So I want to get into sort of who you are and what you do, but if you don't mind, up front, I'd love to hear, what are you doing right now? Are you riding bikes in Maine in the winter?
It's actually not been a bad season for fat biking right now. It's been kind of touch and go. We've had a ton of snow, which people are like, oh, great, fat biking's great then. Not necessarily. The kind of snow we've gotten has kind of precluded a good solid riding season. Starting to get pretty good now. I've been out maybe 2 or 3 times, which is embarrassing to be honest, but a lot going on. The shop's been, honestly, I would say historically busy. Maybe not with sales, but just kind of catching up with all the little spreadsheets and website updates and all the really boring stuff that you're supposed to do during the winter, and it just kind of adds up, and all of a sudden it's busier in the winter than the summer.
Yeah, sometimes it does get that way. Yeah, I'd love to hear a little bit. There's some interesting things. Trading for bike stuff is a pretty fantastic idea. So I'd love to hear if you've got any good stories around the wackiest stuff that people have traded for bike stuff. And then I want to just hear about you. Like you grew up in this world. Like you're probably, as much as anyone could, you grew up with kind of bikes in your veins, and here you are 50 years later after the shop opened, still running it and still making it happen. So 2 questions there.
Yeah, I mean, kind of just fell into it. I mean, obviously I had to be here for a large part of my childhood because, Dad was here and, he picked me up from school and bring me back here, and I was just hanging out. I would like to say that I was kind of a traditional Grom minus the help, because it was mostly just shooting rubber bands at people and bothering people, threatening to get them fired. My daddy's the boss; he can fire you, that kind of thing. But no, I definitely did, find a few things to do, like assembled bikes at a pretty early age. Counting ball bearings, that kind of menial labor. I definitely remember. One job that I always had was to sort the invoices alphabetically. And so, we're talking like 1992 when, QVP and BTI were first starting out. I'd see those invoices and, kind of see. Of course, I didn't really understand, what inventory we were bringing in, but it was like, oh, okay, yeah, pretending that I was like a little businessman. And I'm pretty sure that, I'd get these things all fully alphabetically organized. And then as soon as I wasn't looking, my dad would probably just dump them in the garbage can. But, it kept me busy for half an hour. But yeah, just kind of kept coming to the shop. Eventually took a little bit more of a role. I think it was probably around 2011 or so when I really, went full time and was like, okay, I'm going to make a go of this. This will be my career. Really works well for the kind of person I am because, sometimes I can do something for 3 minutes. Sometimes I can sit down and do it for 2 hours. It all depends on the time. And so there's always something to do. If I'm tired of doing spreadsheets, I can go clean a toilet, which is fun sometimes actually, because it's either done or it's not. There's no quality leveled with that. And then obviously lots of customer service. You can do the emails this time, and then sweep the floors, build bikes, organize stuff. There's just so much to do, and I can always do what I feel like doing at that time. So it works well. And then I took an ownership role probably about 5 years ago with a couple other guys here in the shop. So there's really four owners at this point, and that's been really helpful for all of us because we've really got some skin in the game, and kind of making bigger decisions as we go. The whole while, Davis has kind of been stepping back and back, as he should, because he's in his 70s now. He's about about time to retire. So yeah, it's been definitely a fun job, and kind of coming into my own as an owner.
What was the moment? Was there a moment when you decided like I'm going to make this, because you're there, you grow up in the shop, basically it's your default childcare for a big chunk of your younger life, and then you're working there, probably doing a lot of like what folks do as a part-time role, maybe a little bit more involved because it's a family business. When did you, like 2011? When did you? What was it that you kind of stopped and said, I think I might, make a go of this professionally? What was the shift for you?
Well, I had been working as a wildland firefighter out in Colorado, and I had, at the end of my second season, I was like, okay, this could definitely be my thing. I was considering that being my career. But at the time it was seasonal, and so I would come home for the winter, and I would, work at the bike shop, and then go back out to Colorado. Well, that winter of 2011, I'm not exactly sure. I think it must have just been really, really busy, and we were at this pivotal moment where it's like, wow, we could really become successful here. We were getting hundreds of orders a day occasionally, and with the Carver thing was really starting to take off. I was doing a lot of the Carver customer service, complete builds, and they just, the inquiries just kept rolling in and in and in. And it was like, wow, I started thinking about what would happen, that summer when I went away. And it was like, geez, I'm kind of needed here. It feels nice, but also kind of strange. And so I, didn't take long to finally make that decision. Like, okay, I'm gonna stick around, see where we can go. And it's been really awesome ever since, honestly.
It's a good segue. So you're a local shop. You have this kind of national, international presence, e-commerce wise, and then you've got a bike brand. So you're these three different. Can you like explain it to me? Like it's my first day on the job, and you're trying to walk me through what I'm going to be doing now that I got a job at the bike shop.
Sure. So, I mean, the first priority to me always is the people that walk through the door. It doesn't matter if I'm in the middle of selling somebody a $13,000 custom titanium bike. If an old lady comes in and needs a tube for her hybrid, she is the only thing in my mind. And so, if she's standing around and looking for help, then I'll be like, I'm going to call you back. So that's always number one. The community is key. Again, for better or worse, because sometimes I can spend a whole day selling a $250 hybrid, and then they're like, "Well, good things to think about. I'm gonna go talk to the wife," and the day is wasted. But that's just part of the game. So Bat Cycle is obviously number one, and all the inventory of the bikes and stocking the shelves. They're really basic stuff. And then we go up a level to bikeman.com, and obviously it's bigger stakes. but it's not necessarily, more. I still think that's about another third of the business. Bat Cycle and Ski is one third, Bike Man's one third, and Carver Bikes is one third. And with Bike Man, that's again kind of a higher level. We're talking about more nichey stuff here. We kind of we focus in certain things. We go where the our database manager Al likes to say, "Go where the food is." So whether we like something or not, if that's what's selling at the time, then that's the niche that we're going to get into. So we deal a lot with Pinion, for instance, internal geared hubs,
Hmm.
Gates carbon drive. We've done some e-bike stuff because a lot of people don't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole. So we're always kind of trying to find the next thing for Bike Man. Um,
Do you have
and
a
then there's
30? Do
Carver
you
Bikes
have a
too.
32?
What's that?
Do you have a 32? Do you have a 32-inch wheel bike yet?
We have a 32-inch bike wheel in the stand right now. That's actually the project we're working on right now.
Nice,
Yeah, we got
fantastic,
those. We
awesome.
got those 32-inch Aspen tires from Maxxis. That was really the last piece of the puzzle because, like, the rims were out there, but
Yeah,
you got to have a good tire to have a good bike. Everybody knows it. That's the meat of the
absolutely.
bike. So, yeah, once Maxxis came out, it's like, okay, now it's a legit thing. So, um, but yeah,
Nice.
so that good segue to Carver. That's really the similar situation. We're always kind of trying to find the next thing. With fat bikes, when they were in their infancy, we were really like ahead of the game on that and made a
You
great
really
run of
were.
it.
I remember. Yeah.
Yeah. And then gravel bikes, same thing. Um, Now I don't do much of it, but Davis has gotten really into recumbents lately, long wheelbase recumbents. And so that's just another segment of the market that, I don't think myself included, I don't think we realize like how big of a deal that is. I mean, there's a really big market for recumbents, big comfortable recumbents. Uh, so yeah, I mean, we're always trying to find new stuff. Components, same thing. It's like what's out there. Okay, that nobody needs another aluminum handlebar with a 20 mil rise and 9-degree back sweep. Everybody's doing that. We got to find something crazy and special. Like I'm actually in the room right now where a lot of our components are. If I could find one, I'd pull it up. But we've got this new titanium riser handlebar, a lot like the Surly Sunrise bar, but in titanium. And that's been probably like our hottest new product. We actually funny story. So we meant to have a 7-degree upsweep, and the sample that we got was a 7-degree upsweep. But then when we got our order of 100, they had no upsweep, and so we it was this happens quite a bit. Dealing with overseas, we just kind of rolled with it, and it's like, okay, well, this is what we wanted, this is what we got, we're just going to go with it. And so we had all these people, oh yeah, well, I really wanted the 7-degree, and so we just kind of trickled through. Obviously, we got the 7-degree version on the way, and those arrived, and they started selling. And then we finally sold out of the 0-degree, and we're just exclusively selling sevens. Well, all of a sudden, everybody's asking for
People
that
want
0.
zero.
They're like, hey, I accidentally ordered a 0 because I wanted 7, but I like that better. Can I get the 0? So now we go back to the manufacturer, like, hey, remember those bars you accidentally made? We'll take another 100 of those. So it's funny how these little happy accidents actually turn into, a happy ending.
I love it. Happy accidents. Bob Ross.
Yeah.
What a legacy that guy has. So speaking of odd and old, what's like the weirdest thing that you have that you think is still viable, like still sellable? What would you say is like the thing that you scratch your head about? Like we still sell that. Like that's wild.
That is a terrific question. And I'm going to wake up multiple times in the middle of the night saying, oh, I should have said this. Oh, no, I should have said this. But, boy, I mean, I guess we've still got some height rights. I almost wonder if that might be like, the most.
Can you explain what a
Oh, a
height right
height right
is?
is basically like a proto dropper post. It was like a basically just a spring. So rather than obviously you couldn't do it remotely, but if you flip the quick release lever on your seat post, you could sit down and load the spring, and then when you pull the QR again, it would pop right back up to where it was supposed to be. Now, I never used this. It may have been extremely problematic. I can see a lot of reasons why it would be really problematic. But, the idea is sound. And the simplicity is, obviously, if you've had a if you've had a dropper post before, they can be finicky. Up until recently, when they've kind of figured it out. But I could see in the early days of dropper posts when nothing really worked, people being like, you know what, gonna go back to that height right. But
Nice.
yeah, there's
I
certain
like that.
tires that
And
still hold up from back in the day. Certain tread patterns that really work. Um, it's funny. I've seen this kind of trend to go back to super high pressures on road tires and narrower road tires. We were going wider for a while, and now some people are like, you know
oh
what,
yeah,
frigate, we're going back to a 23 at 120 psi. I want to go fast. I don't care if it's comfortable. But
that is wild. Anything, just thinking about anything that you wish you could get still.
wish we could still get. Boy, again, I'll think of so many things in about half an hour the moment we get off this. But there was a certain seat post made by Raceface, certain seat post design that was just so nice and elegant. It was two bolts. One bolt tightened the rails, and one bolt adjusted the tilt. And it just, yeah, I mean, it was perfect. Everything about it was great. And then all of a sudden, that we'd sell them hand over fist, and then all of a sudden, the next version just didn't have that. And I asked them about it, and they gave kind of a cagey answer. And eventually, I kept squawking and squawking, like, "Hey, you got to get, what about this design? Bring this thing back." And finally, they connected me with the person that had licensed the design. And honestly, I don't remember the details, but I think maybe he wanted to license it for like a higher price than anybody was willing to do. And I was like, "Oh, we'll do that." And then I think I saw the number and I was like, "Never mind. It was good, but it wasn't that good." So
That's why it's not made anymore.
yeah,
uh, well, that's interesting. You mentioned something when we send out a little questionnaire ahead of time, and you mentioned you sort of like talked about pricing and how like the lowest price that like goes on sale ends up kind of inherently becoming the new like everyday price. And I just wonder, like, where did you get that idea from? Is it like an observation, or is it something that came to you from um, some other place, person, business?
I mean that's my personal philosophy because I'm very cheap and thrifty. The thrifty part is good. The cheap part is maybe not so good. But I like to think of myself as a pretty smart shopper, and so like I'm not just gonna like click the first thing. I'm gonna like check the price history. I'm gonna do my homework. And just the idea of something being on a certain price and then the exact same product going up in price after that just doesn't, it's not right to me. And so I will wait. I'll wait until I'm dead for that same price that I saw that one time. I don't know if you've heard of Camel, 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 but it's this website that will track prices,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it
yeah,
shows you
yeah.
like a chart of how high and low they've been. And so a lot of times I've been like, okay, so it bottomed out at like $26.34, so like that's the target. And so every once in a while I'll look, and then finally it's like, okay, we're at an all time low, so that's when I get it. And I feel like that's happened a lot, especially in the past couple of years with bikes. Everything's going on sale, and somebody will walk in and they'll look at this bike, and it's priced at say 1599, which means we spent maybe $1,000 on it, and they're like, well, this bike is $900 online. I'm like, oh crap, well that's terrible. I guess I got to sell it to you for $900. And nobody hates losing money on something more than I do, but like
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
guy did his homework, and that's the value of that product now. And so the sooner I can just sell it, get it over with, and forget all about it because it's going to keep me up at night, the better. Because he's happy. He didn't, he came to us. Maybe we lost some money on it, but he got what he wanted. We've lost that you know landmine, so to speak. We were going to
Hmm.
lose money on it no matter what, probably. So we
Yeah.
got it out of there, and hopefully it's a lesson learned. And there's certain brands where this just became this pattern where you can't buy anything at regular price because it's going to go on sale, and then it's going to go on further sale, and eventually it's going to sell for less than you bought it for. It's a fact of life now. And so there's certain brands where it's like, okay, there's this sweet spot where when they've got it for sale for 60% off or more, that's when we buy it. And that then we're
Hmm.
protected, and sometimes
Yeah.
it goes the other way and the price keeps going up and up, and then we actually make decent margin to, make up for all those losses before. But it's just this risk that we can't take anymore. We just got burned too many
Yeah.
times.
It's a really interesting, kind of confluence of uh, model year cycles. So you've got new product every year, everything's new colors, it's been consistently. And then you've got this e-commerce component, which is definitely driven by price, like the shopping, I think price isn't everything. I think there's a lot of, marketing, one of the things, brand, brand value. I think there's definitely a premium on some products and there's a good reason for it. Sometimes there's not. But, this is an interesting time where, you know, whether it's price matching, like you said, you don't mind price matching. I think that's a really strong strategy in general. And also I think there is, you need to make money too. It's a business. So, making sure that you're, making money. So I guess, how do you, do you have the same policies across all of your, obviously Carver's a little different because that's your product. You maintain price. You're responsible for any, you don't have, I don't think you have resellers, do you, on that brand?
Not to speak of. We did have a pretty good
Yeah.
dealer network in the early days, but I think we were always going direct, and I think once
Yeah.
everybody else started going direct as well, or for the most part, I think our dealer network was like, okay, well, it's a first in, first out kind of thing. I mean, like our margins were never very good for them anyway, so I think they realized
Hmm.
like, okay, yeah, just go direct. We still hook people in
Yeah.
for sure. We just do kind of a flat 15% off discount to any shop,
For a
which,
shop, if they're
yeah,
going to
for
resell.
shops or industry people or whatever. And so, yeah, there's not much money in it for them, but it's better than a sharp stick in the eye.
It's, indeed. Well, if someone's looking, right, and they're willing to buy it from you, then why not? If they've made their mind up. Yeah, that makes sense. So I guess I'm thinking, there's these really interesting factors that are happening. There's oversupply in certain spaces, undersupply in others. I think this year is going to be really challenging. Are you, just planning this year, thinking about where we're headed? Do you have the same strategy across all of your, between the e-commerce and the in-store? Do you do the same, like, I know there's obviously some brands have a MAP policy, which, you're adhering to, but in general, like, how are you thinking about like this, specifically this, like, price matching and sort of like lowest every day? What's your strategy, or is it just that, that's just, what's your plan for, the spring and the summer, and how do you manage that with all this other stuff this uncertainty, I'll call it? I think, like, this is a challenge for a lot of retailers, is this, you know uncertainty, that's out there, that tariffs, oversupply, maybe undersupply, so I'm just, how are you thinking about this?
Well, the plan has been. It's funny. The plan hasn't changed despite all the craziness that's happened over the past 6 years or so. The plan hasn't really changed in 10 years. We've just constantly wanted to have less inventory, carry less inventory. Um, Sometimes it works out, with tubes. Sure, yes, you can never have enough tubes, but for the most part, it's not a winning proposition to carry this inventory. On the whole, again, there's little cases where it works out great, but for the most part, we just want to buy less, and especially with bikes. We're just constantly trying to have a year where we're just not buying bikes, and it's tough because just recently we brought in probably another 40 or 50 bikes because X brand was at the lowest prices we'd ever seen before, and this brand's going out of business, and this one, it's a brand new brand. We don't need another brand, but I mean, we're talking about a full carbon GRX gravel bike for $1,200 wholesale. Like, what are you gonna do? Say no? So
It's a really good price.
so yeah, we keep shooting ourselves in the foot, and well, sometimes because occasionally it's I've never seen prices this low, and then so we get 20 bikes, and then 3 months later, either the company's out of business or, they've got even deeper discounts than that. So obviously you don't have a crystal ball. You got to do the best you can. The fact of the matter is, we're just, unless our feet are to the fire and we have got to do a preseason order for brand new bikes, we're just not going to do it. It's
Mhm.
waiting for the closeouts. We used to be the closeout kings in the late 90s and early 2000s, and that's been our roots, and that's what we're going to try to keep going for.
So I'm talking to a brand new shop owner. They're thinking about e-commerce. What advice would you give somebody who's not in it right now? Not really, maybe they have their stuff on Google Merchant Center. They're available on shopping, but they really haven't dipped their toe in. What would you recommend to someone who's kind of just thinking about getting into e-commerce?
I mean, be different is the only advice I can come up with. I mean, you've got to find what challenges the customers are facing. What are they not able to get? I mean, there's no reason to go into e-commerce and sell XTR derailleurs. I mean, there's that pond is fished out. You've got to find the new stuff, the different stuff, the stuff that's harder to find. Um, when one good strategy I find is, look for companies that did distribute through a major distributor, QBP, BTI, JMB, Holly, something like that, and stopped because all of a sudden they're hungry because they've lost this big sales channel. The name is already out there. I mean, people have known about them
Mhm.
because all these shops have been seeing them in the little brand list. But now all of a sudden, customers are not easily able to get it unless they go direct, which sometimes they do, sometimes they can't for whatever reason. So yeah, I mean, finding those brands and buddying up with them, that seems to be a pretty good strategy for the most part. Um, Fill that void that the distributor had filled.
Nice. I like that. It's good advice. Uh, I correct me if I got the name wrong, but Take Me Home Tuesday. What's the origin story behind that?
Um, I don't know. It just it just happened one day. So we did not have a social media presence for years and years and years. Honestly, I think might have been a decade of virtually nothing. And so one day I was like, I think somebody said, "You guys don't do any marketing at all." I'm like, "Oh yeah, no." And I'm thinking of like ads in magazines and that kind of thing. And they were like, "Well, no, I mean like also social media." And I was thinking, "Yeah, I guess we don't." And so it was not really a grassroots thing. I think that well, I'm really the only one that does it. So I just said, okay, well, I can commit to 2 posts a week. Um, and so I feel like we should have one kind of like special thing that is like a recurring deal. And then one day we'll just do kind of like a wild card where it's just like maybe something funny about the shop because everything about this place is funny and weird and entertaining. But yeah, I started looking around and it was like, geez, there's so many products here that people walk in and they're like, why the hell do you have this? And they're just like laughing at us about it. And we're laughing at ourselves too. Laugh when the world laughs with you. Um, but yeah, I just started. I think the first day it was like, "Take Me Home Tuesday." That sounds good. And I don't remember exactly what the first product was, but it really took off. People loved it. I think it was actually it was a weird old. It was a new old stock bike from I think like 2003 or something. I mean, it's literally been on the sales floor for 23 years, test ridden probably 40 times, and just nobody took the damn thing home. Um, so we were trying to give it this last little oomph to get it sold, and then we moved on to parts and other random stuff. But it's funny, every Tuesday I'm like, we got to make that Take Me Home Tuesday, and I'm all like stressed about it. But really, you don't have to look far here. I mean, it takes about
No.
5 minutes. You're like, oh yeah, there we go, right there.
How do you pick the pro? What is it? Is it that easy? You
It is
just
really that easy.
randomly.
It's basically go into a room and look around for a minute, and then just pull something off the shelf, and then you got to check it out honestly because there have been some really weird brand new, and that's the other thing. Almost all this stuff is like brand new in package and has been
Brand
for
new stock. Yeah.
30, sometimes 40 years.
I actually really enjoy it. Right out of the gate, I was like, "This is a good idea. This is a really good idea. I really enjoy it. It's good." And you because you have such a good like um, inventory of stuff that's interesting. I mean, you really do, and you always have. I think this it's an interesting thing. Switching gears a little bit, is there something going on? We talked about Carver and sort of like how you're keeping track of trends and sort of like that's one of the tools you use Carver bikes for, doing things that are interesting, whether that's fat bikes, you know, 15 plus years ago or probably 20 years ago now, almost, that long ago. And then, um, what gravel bikes and, 32-inch mountain bikes now and 32-inch gravel, I'm sure. And, um, is there a trend that's going right now that you either that you think is really interesting or that maybe you think is like way overblown?
Um, no, I have not really noticed a whole lot of new stuff lately. We're always looking for it. I think probably other than 32 inch, which you mentioned, I don't know if you've seen Surly's Moonlander 2.0. But that is it's a pinion gearbox bike that uses a 24 by 6 inch tire. So it's kind of the next generation of fat bike. And those who have ridden fat bikes know that the difference between a 4 and a 5 inch fat tire sometimes is life or death. It's either
That's
you can
everything.
ride or you
Yeah.
can't ride. And so
Hmm.
you can expect that between 5 and 6 there's a similar jump in what's rideable. Um, But yeah, so that came out, and oddly enough, we haven't sold a single one. It's really strange, and I think that it may just be because the geometry of the bike is a little odd. But anyway, the first thing we did was we make a titanium version, and we tweaked it a little bit so the wheelbase isn't so long. We've made it an elevated chainstay design for crank clearance because it uses like a special crank arm for the pinion system. And then also that elevated chainstay allows you to run a belt drive, which the Moonlander doesn't have. So this is one of those things where we made one. I think once the word gets out there, there's going to be a lot of people who are like, I don't care, I want that.
Yeah.
I've got 17 bikes. I don't have a super duper fat bike. I have a fat bike and a really fat bike, but now I need a super duper fat because that's the new platform. So
The next level. Yeah. I like it. I bet it's a lot of fun too.
yeah.
Um, so as far as bike community. So, I think you're in an interesting place, I think relatively speaking, rural. I think that's, you're in not like rural Maine, but you're in a more
I'd
rural
call it
area.
rural, yeah.
Um, I want to be, I want to be respectful to all parties here.
No, that's a
Uh,
compliment.
so I'm a big fan of Maine, rural America. I mean, I've had the good fortune of being everywhere in this country, and wherever I go, I find people are wonderful. Like that's been my experience is that people are just good all around. Like there are exceptions, but overwhelmingly people are good. Like that is the whether it's Natchez, Mississippi, or uh, Bend, Oregon, or um, yeah, the beautiful coast of Maine, central Maine. Are we central? Not quite central, I don't think, right?
I still don't know. Some
Where
people
would
call
you,
it southern, some people call it down east. I call it mid coast.
mid coast? I like mid coast. What does bike community look like to you where you are?
It's changed for sure. I mean, we've got our NEMBA chapter, and that seems to me to be like kind of the nucleus of at least mountain biking. The trail days and the organized rides. Um, but as a shop owner, it's really I think it's mostly just like the people that come in every other day. Excuse me. Not always to buy something, but just to hang out. We've got, I mean, I was going to say dozens, but there'd be hundreds of people that, come in at least once a month just to, hang out, say hi, that kind of thing. They just like it here. A lot of people call it church.
Yeah, yeah, I feel the same way often. What's one thing that you're proud of that would, never show up on a P&L or on the, on the revenue side of the business? What's one thing that you really feel good about?
Well, everybody really likes working here. Everybody's full time. We don't have, any part time employment. We do, we try to treat people pretty well. You can't make a lot of money in this business, as you know, but we do everything we can to, to make it a good work environment. We have tons of fun. Um, there's a lot of flexibility. If somebody wants to take a day off to go skiing, it's like it's not a big deal. I take tons of time off, probably more than everybody here. So we're very informal. We're not corporate at all. We're very honest with people. We don't have, we don't do the sales pitch. We never do the hard sell. Um, that I find a lot of customers are like really shocked when I tell them like, okay, well, go home and think about it. And they're like kind of expecting me to like, they want me to push them into it, but it's like, no, that's just not, it's not how we do it, man. And then oftentimes I'm like, yeah, think about it. It'll be here when you get back. We've got 7 of these. I'm like, oh, you're supposed to say this is the last one, and 7 people are calling about it. No, we got plenty of them. Like, if you come back in 3 weeks, it'll be here. Like, don't sweat it. Don't worry about it. Yeah, I'm really proud of that. That's because it's not always a winning strategy. It seems like, but we can sleep at night.
And there's so much value in that. Like, having a good night's sleep is so important. It comes through. It always has, actually. Whether it was your dad or you, anytime I have had the good fortune of coming by, I've been really impressed with the way you guys operate. It's pretty clear you're in it for the right reasons, and so I'm grateful that you're here and where you are, and for your time. I really appreciate it. Where can people find you? We know bikeman.com. Where else can people find you? How can they get to the shop?
Um, Physically,
Well,
we're
yeah,
on Route One, but no,
in
yeah, I mean,
Bath, right? Yeah,
but yeah,
yeah.
Route One in Woolwich. Actually, that's a funny story. People are
Woolwich.
always like, "Wait, what's the
Tell me
Bath
more.
part? Do you guys also sell bats?" No, we used to be in Bath across the bridge, but we moved
Got it.
to this location in Woolwich in '84. This is actually like a 19th century farmhouse tavern, crazy weird building with 6 shipping containers. I don't even know the square footage, but you really can't miss it. But yeah, we're right over the bridge from Bath into Woolwich on the right. Yep, bikeman.com is the website. Check us out on Facebook for sure, if only to, to scroll back through the year or two of Take Me Home Tuesdays we've done. Um, but yeah, really, I mean, call us too. I mean, if you're not from here, we'll all answer the phone. We're willing to go to great lengths to find you what you need. I mean, whether it's here in this building, which it probably is, or whether there's just some backwater distributor that's the only one that carries it. We really we have fun hunting for the product that you need. Um, so yeah, call us. But really, nothing beats the experience of coming here and getting your self guided tour through the halls of this place, because it really is part museum, part shop. It's not a store; it's a shop. But don't
Any
expect any level of cleanliness.
It's a bike shop. Any anything coming up this year that you're excited about that you want to share? Like a big bike ride, going on any adventures, anything? I know you dabble in politics, local politics a little bit. Anything that you want to share that you're excited about rolling into 2026?
Well, there's been really good things happening with the local NEMBA chapter. I mentioned Six Rivers NEMBA. A lot of new partnerships going on. Actually, they are reaching out to my hometown that I live, Edgecombe. And so I can see, probably not in the very short term, but I'm seeing a pretty big push for trail network in Edgecombe. There's already a pretty big preserve there called the Schmid Preserve that has, I don't know, probably I would say maybe 15, 20 miles of trail, but there's potential for at least double that. And there's plenty of grant money for it. There's a lot of interest with the local land trusts. So, again, probably not this year, but I'm seeing some really good things coming up, which is great because that area, Bath has terrific trails, a really nice trail
Mhm.
network. But, once you start going north, it's not until probably Camden where you really see like a good, big, dedicated trail network for mountain bikes. So it'll be nice to see something kind of in between those two spots. But yeah, keep your
I
eyes
know
out for
there's
that.
been, I will, I will. There's been some great trail building in Maine in general over the last, decade. And so it's amazing riding across the state. It's, highly recommend an adventure to Maine. And Bath is one of those places I would definitely recommend. So, well, thank you so much for your time. It's been great to get a chance to chat. It's been a while, and hopefully next time I see you, we'll be on the bikes together. So, thank you so
Yeah, thanks
much.
for inviting me on. It's been an honor.
Yeah, thanks, Bars. Have a great day. Take care.
You
Thanks.
too. See ya.
See ya.